The Galactic Defense Academy had seen many species pass through its halls over the centuries, crystalline zephrons who could calculate trajectories in microseconds, 4 armed Draknari warriors built like living tanks. Even the telepathic mindweavers of Sector 9 could anticipate an enemy's move before they made it. But never, in the Academy's 300-year history, had they accepted a human. Cadet Maya Torres stepped off the transport vessel and onto the polished obsidian floor of the training facility. Her boots, standard issue from Earth's military surplus, squeaked against the alien surface. Every eye in the reception hall turned toward her. Some widened in curiosity, others narrowed in what could only be described as contempt. She squared her shoulders and kept walking. The orientation officer, a towering Velcron with scales that shimmered between purple and green, looked down at her with barely concealed disdain. His name badge read Commander Threx, and he held a data pad like it personally offended him. "Cadet Torres," he said, his voice dripping with something that wasn't quite respect. "You are the first of your kind to be admitted to this institution. I trust you understand the, shall we say, skepticism surrounding your presence here." Maya smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Oh, I'm well aware, Commander. Apparently, humans are considered the galactic equivalent of puppies who somehow learned to fly starships. Cute, but ultimately harmless." A ripple of shocked silence spread through the other cadets nearby. No one spoke to Commander Threx like that. Threx's scales darkened to an angry crimson. "Your species hails from what the Galactic Council classifies as a Category 7 death world. Your planet is a nightmare of predators, diseases, and environmental extremes. Yet somehow, you remain physically inferior to nearly every combat species in known space." "Physically inferior," Maya repeated, letting the words hang in the air. "Right, is that why the Draknari delegation requested human security contractors after their embassy attack last year? Because we're so inferior?" Threx's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The Draknari incident was still a sore subject. 3 human guards had held off an assault force of 20 pirates for 6 hours, using nothing but tactical ingenuity and weapons they'd improvised from kitchen equipment. "Your first combat evaluation begins in 1 hour, Threx finally said. "Armory is on level 3. Try not to embarrass your planet more than necessary." Maya didn't dignify that with a response. She simply turned and walked toward the lift, feeling dozens of alien eyes boring into her back. The armory was a cathedral of violence, walls lined with plasma rifles that could melt through reinforced steel, energy blades that vibrated at frequencies capable of cutting molecular bonds, gravity hammers that could crush a tank with a single swing. Each weapon represented centuries of technological advancement, the pinnacle of their respective civilizations' military engineering. The armory master, a squat, muscular Gorvak named Sergeant Krell, gestured toward the impressive display. "Choose your weapon, human. Make it count. You'll be facing combat scenarios designed for species twice your size and 3 times your strength." Maya walked slowly along the racks, her fingers trailing near, but not touching, the various instruments of destruction. She paused at a plasma carbine, lifted it, and tested its weight. Too heavy. The recoil compensators were calibrated for Velcron physiology. She moved on to an energy blade. Too unwieldy. The activation sequence required a 4-fingered grip. Krell watched her with growing amusement. Having trouble finding something your delicate human hands can manage?" "Just being thorough," Maya replied absently. She reached the end of the armory, where a small cabinet sat in the corner, covered in dust. "What's in here?" Krell's amusement turned into something crueler. "Oh, those are the antiques, relics from primitive civilizations before they developed proper technology. We keep them for historical purposes." He walked over and opened the cabinet with a dramatic flourish. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable with something closer to your species' technological level." Inside the cabinet were weapons that hadn't seen battle in centuries. crude projectile launchers, bladed instruments made of forged metal, and there, in the back corner, a simple wooden training staff, its surface worn smooth by countless hands. Maya reached in and pulled out the staff. It was roughly 2 meters long, made from some dense alien wood she didn't recognize. Perfectly balanced. She spun it experimentally, feeling the weight distribution, the way it moved through the air. "You cannot be serious," Krell said, his laughter echoing through the armory. "You're going to face automated combat drones armed with plasma weapons, and you want to bring a stick." Maya planted one end of the staff on the ground and leaned on it slightly. "This stick has better balance than half the weapons on those walls. It doesn't need charging, can't malfunction, and won't explode if I drop it in water. Plus," she grinned, "there's something poetic about it." "Poetic," Krell repeated flatly. "You'll be vaporized in the first 30 seconds. Then it'll be a very short poem." Maya tucked the staff under her arm. "Where's the combat arena?" The arena was a massive cylindrical chamber, its walls lined with energy shields that could contain blasts powerful enough to level buildings. Above, in the observation gallery, Commander Threx stood with his arms crossed, surrounded by other instructors and a crowd of cadets who'd heard about the humans' unusual weapon choice. Maya stood in the center of the arena, staff in hand, while holographic displays showed her the scenario parameters. Wave-based combat simulation. Increasing. Difficulty. Automated drones armed with standard-issue plasma rifles. "This is absurd," muttered a Draknari cadet in the gallery. "She'll be cut down immediately." "Perhaps that's the point," another voice replied. "Show the humans they don't belong here." Threx activated the arena controls. "Cadet Torres, you may begin when ready. Try to last at least one wave. It would be embarrassing for your species if you didn't." Maya didn't respond. She closed her eyes, rolled her shoulders, and took a deep breath. The staff felt good in her hands. Familiar. She'd trained with similar weapons in Earth's martial arts dojos since she was 8 years old. While other kids played video games, she'd studied bojutsu, kung fu staff techniques, and the deadly art of stick fighting from a dozen different cultures. Her instructors had always told her the same thing. The weapon doesn't make the warrior makes the weapon. She opened her eyes. "Ready." The first wave materialized instantly. 3 combat drones, each roughly humanoid in shape, equipped with plasma rifles. They moved with mechanical precision, spreading out to create crossfire angles. The gallery went silent. The drones opened fire simultaneously. Bolts of superheated plasma screamed through the air, each capable of burning a hole through reinforced armor. Maya moved. She didn't run, didn't dive for cover. She flowed like water, the staff spinning in her hands in a defensive pattern that seemed almost lazy. The plasma bolts struck the wooden staff and, impossibly, dispersed. The wood, treated with some long, forgotten alien technique, conducted and dissipated the energy across its surface. "Impossible," someone whispered in the gallery. Maya closed the distance to the nearest drone in 3 long strides. The staff became a blur. One strike to the drone's weapon, knocking it aside. A second strike to its central processing unit, delivered with enough force to shatter the armored casing. The drone collapsed, sparking. The second drone adjusted its aim, compensating for her speed. It didn't matter. Maya was already moving, using the falling first drone as cover, then launching herself into a slide that brought her under the second drone's firing line. She swept its legs out from under it, literally, then brought the staff down on its head unit like a hammer. The third drone managed to get off 2 shots. Both missed. Maya had predicted its firing pattern, and she moved through the spaces between the plasma bolts like she was dancing. A thrust with the staff's end caught the drone in its optical sensor. A spinning strike caved in its chest plate. Silence in the gallery. Absolute, stunned silence. Wave 2 began, before the echoes of the first wave's destruction had faded. 5 drones this time. Better armed. Faster. Maya smiled. This was going to be fun. The fifth wave materialized in a tactical formation that would have made a military strategist proud. 12 drones arranged in 3 firing teams with overlapping fields of fire they'd learned from the previous waves, programmed to adapt to her fighting style. They kept their distance, denied her the close-quarters advantage she'd exploited so effectively. In the observation gallery, the mood had shifted from contemptuous amusement to something approaching disbelief. Even Commander Threx had uncrossed his arms, leaning forward slightly as he watched the human cadet move through the arena like violence personified. A Zephron tactical instructor was frantically analyzing the combat data on his personal display. This makes no sense. The plasma dispersion upon contact with that primitive weapon. The energy should be melting through the wood, but instead it's distributing across the molecular structure. How is that possible? Forget the weapon, growled a Draknari combat veteran who'd come to watch. Look at her movement patterns. She's not reacting to where they're firing. She's predicting where they're going to fire. That's not training, that's instinct. Predator instinct. Maya didn't hear any of this. She was too focused on staying alive. The drones opened fire in a coordinated barrage, 12 plasma rifles unleashing hell simultaneously. The air turned blue-white with superheated energy. Any normal combatant would have been vaporized instantly. Maya planted the staff and vaulted over the incoming fire, twisting in midair. She landed in a roll, came up running at an angle that put 2 of the drones between her and their squadmates. The staff lashed out, not at the drones themselves, but at their weapons. Crack, crack. 2 plasma rifles shattered, their delicate internal mechanisms unable to withstand the kinetic impact. The drones adapted again, 2 of them switching to melee mode, extending energy blades from their arms. They rushed her in a coordinated pincer attack. Finally, Maya muttered. She'd been waiting for them to get close. The first blade came at her head. She ducked under it, the staff sweeping low to take out the drone's knee joint. It buckled. She used its falling body as a springboard, launching herself at the second melee drone. Her staff caught its blade arm, twisted, and with a sound like breaking glass, the energy blade shattered. Impossible. Energy blades didn't shatter. They were coherent plasma fields, contained by magnetic bottles. You couldn't break them with kinetic force alone. Except Maya just had. She spun the staff and drove one end through the drone's chest cavity, then yanked it free and threw it like a javelin at a drone that was lining up a shot from across the arena. The staff flew true, smashing into the drone's weapon and sending it spinning away. Maya was already moving, scooping up a piece of debris from a destroyed drone and hurling it with deadly accuracy at another target. She's using the environment, someone in the gallery observed unnecessarily. She's turning our own technology against the simulation. Wave 6 began. Wave 7. Wave 8. Each time, more drones, better tactics, upgraded weapons, and each time, Maya adapted faster than the program could compensate. She started anticipating the wave spawn points, positioning herself to strike before the drones fully materialized. She learned their reload times, their movement algorithms, their blind spots. By Wave 9, she wasn't just surviving. She was toying with them. A drone fired at her. She caught the plasma bolt on the staff and, with a flick of her wrist, redirected it into another drone. The gallery erupted in shocked exclamations. They imagined that shouldn't be possible. Plasma didn't bounce. It exploded on impact or dissipated. She's treating directed energy weapons like projectiles, the Zephron instructor said, his voice hollow. She's applying kinetic combat theory to energy-based warfare. It's revolutionary and insane. Mostly insane. Commander Threx finally found his voice. Increase difficulty to maximum. Authorization, Threx 7 Alpha. Sir, one of his subordinates protested, maximum difficulty is rated for fully armored Draknari shock troopers. She's a baseline human with a piece of wood. I'm aware of what she is, Threx snapped. Do it. Wave 10 materialized. 20 drones, advanced models with shields, heavy weapons, and combat intelligence. that approached sentience, the kind of force that could assault a fortified position. They appeared in a semicircle around Maya, weapons already charged and firing. This time, Maya didn't smile. This time, she got angry. The staff became something alive in her hands. She moved through the incoming fire like it didn't exist. The wooden weapon deflecting, dispersing, and redirecting energy that should have killed her 100 times over. She reached the first drone and destroyed it with 3 precise strikes. Weapon, shield generator, core. A heavy plasma cannon swiveled toward her. She was already gone, using a destroyed drone's carcass as cover, then launching it at the cannon's operator. The impact disrupted its targeting long enough for her to close the distance. The staff went through the cannon's barrel assembly like it was made of paper. "Her strike precision," someone whispered. "She's hitting structural weak points, the exact points where the components interface. How does she even know where those are?" They were wrong. Maya didn't know where the weak points were. She just hit everything with enough force that it didn't matter. There was a human saying her first self-defense instructor had taught her. The best defense is overwhelming offense. She'd taken that to heart. A drone with an energy blade tried to engage her in close combat. It was a mistake. Whatever combat algorithms it possessed, they weren't designed to face someone who'd spent 15 years studying every martial art Earth had to offer. She disarmed it, literally, then used its own blade to cut through 2 more drones before the magnetic field destabilized. The final 5 drones of Wave 10 clustered together, attempting to create an impenetrable firing solution. Maya didn't try to break through. Instead, she did something that made every military mind in the observation gallery recalculate their understanding of human psychology. She laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a desperate laugh, a genuine, delighted laugh of someone having the time of their life. Then she charged straight at them. The staff spun in a defensive pattern so fast it appeared as a solid disk of motion. Plasma fire struck it and scattered like rain off a shield. She reached the cluster and went to work with brutal efficiency. The drones were packed too close together, limiting their mobility. They'd optimized for firepower and forgotten about maneuverability. Fatal mistake. 45 seconds later, the last drone fell in a shower of sparks. Silence filled the arena. Then, slowly, the impact of what they'd just witnessed began to settle in. Maya stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard but still standing. Her uniform was singed in places from near misses, and she had a small cut above one eyebrow. But she was alive, triumphant. The wooden staff, incredibly, was still intact. Commander Threx descended from the observation gallery, his expression unreadable. The crowd of cadets parted for him as he walked into the arena. He stopped 3 meters from Maya. "That was," he began, then paused, searching for words. "That was the most ridiculous, tactically unsound, physics-defying combat performance I've ever witnessed." Maya waited. She could tell there was more coming. "It was also," Threx continued, and something that might have been respect flickered in his eyes, "absolutely magnificent. 10 waves, maximum difficulty. With a wooden stick. You didn't just pass the evaluation, Cadet Torres. You destroyed it. Literally. The simulation program has flagged your performance as a statistical impossibility and is demanding I submit your biological specs for review because it's convinced you're a previously unknown combat species." Maya allowed herself a small grin. "So, does this mean I can keep the stick?" Threx almost smiled. "Almost. Keep it. I suspect you'll make far better use of it than any of the advanced weapons we could provide, though I will require a full report on how you managed to shatter plasma weapons with kinetic force." "It's simple, really," Maya said, resting the staff on her shoulder. "Earth's a death world, right? Which means everything we build has to be tougher than it looks to survive. This wood," she tapped the staff, "comes from a tree that grows in radiation zones. The aliens who made this staff knew what they were doing. They just forgot that sometimes the old ways work best." She looked around at the gathered cadets, meeting their stares with calm confidence. And as for the fighting, you all keep talking about humans being physically inferior, weaker, slower, fragile. You're not wrong, but you're missing the point. We didn't survive Earth by being the strongest predators. We survived by being the smartest, the most adaptable, the ones who never, ever quit. You can have your plasma rifles and your energy blades. Give me a stick and a target and I'll show you what human ingenuity looks like. A Draknari cadet in the crowd, the same one who'd predicted her immediate failure, stepped forward. He was easily twice her size, with muscles that could bend steel. You got lucky, human. In real combat against a trained warrior, not mindless drones, that stick wouldn't save you. Maya's grin widened. You want to test that theory? The Draknari's confidence faltered. He'd just watched her dismantle an assault force that would have challenged a full squad. Going one-on-one with her suddenly seemed less appealing. That's what I thought, Maya said. She turned back to Threx. Sir, with respect, I didn't come to the Galactic Defense Academy to prove humans belong here. I came to learn, to get better, to study alongside the best warriors from 100 different worlds. So instead of debating whether I should be here, how about we move on to the next lesson? I've got a lot to learn, and I'm pretty sure you've got a lot to teach. Threx regarded her for a long moment. Then he did something no one had ever seen him do. He bowed his head slightly in acknowledgement. Report to Advanced Combat Theory tomorrow at 0600. And Cadet Torres. Yes, sir. Welcome to the Academy. Try not to break any more of our equipment. As Maya walked out of the arena, staff in hand, she could hear the whispers spreading through the crowd. The human, the one with the stick, the one who fought like a demon and laughed while doing it. She didn't mind the whispers. Let them talk. Let them wonder. 'Cause while they were busy underestimating humans, she'd be busy proving exactly why Earth's warriors, armed with nothing but determination and a good piece of wood, were the most dangerous thing the galaxy had ever seen. Behind her, in the observation gallery, recruitment officers from a dozen different military organizations were already requesting her contact information. The Velkron Strategic Defense wanted her for their Special Operations Division. The Zephron Navy needed consultants for their hand-to-hand combat programs. Even the Draknari warlords, who never recruited outside their own species, were making inquiries. Commander Threx watched them all with something resembling satisfaction. He'd known, from the moment he'd read her application, seen her test scores, and reviewed her combat history from Earth's various military academies, he'd known she would be extraordinary. That's why he'd made the evaluation so brutal. Not to break her, to introduce her properly, to make sure every species in the galaxy understood that when humans came to play, they didn't come to lose. They came to win. With sticks, if necessary. And maybe, Threx thought, that was the most terrifying thing about them. The end.